welcome back to another episode of Conversations with Jacob. Today we got a good episode for you, and today marks the 29th episode. Next week is episode number 30, which will be in October. So before we get to our guest this week, I want to do my podcast plugs like I do every episode. You can find us on Facebook, facebook.com/conversations with Jacob on YT. Twitter is CWJ Podcast. And our podcast airs every Monday at 1 p.m., and that is Eastern time. You can find us on you can find the podcast on Spotify, and we're on TuneIn, we're on iHeartRadio, Pandora, Player.fm, and we're all in like 20 different platforms at this point. And you got a question, a guest suggestion, just want to say hi, you can email our mailbag, conversationswithjacob@gmail.com. You can visit our website, conversationswithjacobpodcast.weebly.com, to find upcoming guests, past guests, and also a little section on there I call Post from the Host, my idea. Anyways, and joining me this week is, his name is Joe Gatto, and he is the author, TV, and radio host and private chef for A-list clients and athletes. Joe, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. Now, when I told people that I was going to talk to Joe Gatto, they thought it was the guy from Practical Jokers. I said it's not him.
Absolutely.
I said it's not him. I said it's a guy that cooks food.
That's right.
So, I guess to start it off, and how did you become, involved, becoming a chef?
Started out with teaching classes, and then it just kind of evolved from there. The more I started teaching, the more I just started meeting people, and then I became a private chef. And then the private chef business kind of took off, where I was cooking for A-list clients, like athletes, like Celtics players and Red Sox players. And then I got a TV show, and then it really just kind of took off with the TV show and the book. And then I got my own show on NPR, and now I'm developing out more TV shows with different networks. So it just kept growing and growing.
Was it something that you always wanted to do when you was a kid or growing up?
Yeah, it's something I've always done. I've always enjoyed doing. I grew up in the kitchen with my mom, just chopping on the counter, cooking, sifting, doing all of that. And it just kind of grew from there, from the passion and love I had from doing it with my mom. It grew into, a viable career.
All right. Now, and what does it mean cooking from scratch?
I mean, for me, cooking from scratch, just like, you can check out my show on Pluto and Roku and see how I did it. That means, I hand forge my own knives, I pull water out of the Atlantic, make salt, milk cows, make butter and cheese, make my own charcoal, distill rum, you name it, I did it. And that's how I really I love going to the core of food and really finding out how it works.
Now, did you have any people that kind of influenced you to, become a chef?
I mean, I would have to say my mom and Julia Child were huge influences. When I was growing up, I watched Julia and Jacques Pepin. Every weekend, my mom and I would cook in the kitchen, and they'd be on a little 13-inch black and white TV doing their thing, and I always loved that. And that definitely helped structure what became my food career.
Oh, yeah, it was every now and then I find myself watching a video of Julia Child on YouTube. And she can really cook some food. Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
And do you got a favorite food that she's cooked?
I mean, I love a lot of what Julia did, a lot of her influence. I'm actually, on my radio program, I'm going to be doing an omelet, which was the first thing she cooked on air. And she's pretty famous for French-style omelet. And I'm going to be doing that just to kind of give a little shout-out to her, because she's such a huge influence.
Oh, absolutely. Now, do you got a favorite dish and that you like to cook?
I mean, I like to cook everything, but Mexican food is really, really my favorite. We just had a house built in Tulum, so we were just down there last week, actually. That's why I'm so tan. And and the food down there, which the region, that region, to me, with the annatos, the P-bills, and that kind of that kind of cooking is definitely my favorite. Tamales, anything like that, things that, use masa, homemade tortillas, carnes, like that's just, to me, my favorite food in the world because of the simplicity and the complexity all at once.
All right. Now, in this question right here, maybe something you can answer for the viewers. Now, of course, and you might cook stuff that's kind of healthy and stuff like that. But do you think that, this may be a dumb question, but I just wrote it down before we started this. Do you think that junk food is something that we can have every day, or do you think we need to kind of slack up on stuff like that?
Yeah, I don't think you should be eating junk food. Yeah. My kids, I have 3 kids, 13, 10, and 5. And they grew up not eating that, and they don't miss it. They don't crave it. They're offered it constantly, of course, because they're older, but it's just not their jam because they're used to things being cooked this way. And I think that all starts in the home. If you start filling your kids with empty calories, and it's not preachy, it's just the truth, and empty, the high fats, the empty calories, and people get hooked on that, like high sugar, like soda's like one of the worst things, just like you just want to try to, because it's up to you as a parent to guide your children. You're solidifying their eating habits for the rest of their life now. So even if they try to diet and everything as they get older, it will become very difficult for them to steer away from those kinds of foods. And you don't have to. And plus, they're all empty calories. They're not nutritional. I mean, having a bag of chips or something every so often, whatever. Like, I don't care about that. But when you're serving, frozen foods for dinner and you're ordering out and you have junk in the pantry and it's just all junk and there's no fruit and there's no balance, that's part of the problem with, the health problems in the U.S. and the obesity problems, because all that training is very, very difficult for people to lose as they get older because that habit is so ingrained. But if you're cooking together and you're making meals together, and just because you're cooking something from scratch doesn't mean it's all foofy and healthy and doesn't taste good. I make food that will blow your mind. And, when I'm cooking authentic dishes from Mexico to Spain to Italy, and it doesn't have to be heavily sauced and buttered, and we're doing fish at home, making fish tacos, but we're making the tortillas ourselves and we're controlling salt content. These are all things my kids do. They make pasta from scratch on their own. They can make tortillas, and you can see them on my Instagram do it. And they do it with their friends, and their friends come over and they have a blast because it is fun. And it's a skill that they'll take with them for the rest of their life. So I say stay away from the junk food at all costs.
So do you cook with your kids?
Every single day. And they're on my radio programs or on my TV show. If you go to my Instagram at Chef Joe Gatto, you can see them doing everything with me and making everything from scratch. They literally can make more than most adults.
Now, for people that's watching or listening to this, how can they get away from junk food and kind of focus on like food that's healthy?
Well, you have to make that decision. You have to stop buying frozen dishes. You have to stop the freezer aisle at the supermarket. You just should never have to go in, really. And you need to start making dishes that make sense for your family. You can make things that are delicious. You can make from everything from picadas to tacos, and you can make healthy tacos, doing pulled chicken instead of always doing beef. You can, but you have to make that decision in your house, not to order pizza, to make something that's healthier, to roast a whole chicken and pull it, and do roasted vegetables, and always have vegetables at the dinner table, like things like that. You have to. It's not rocket science, but it's also something you have to make a commitment to. You can say until you're blue in the face that you want to get healthier, but until you make that decision in the kitchen, you can work out 24/7 and it's still not going to do any good, because what you're putting in your mouth is the most important thing.
Absolutely. So you're saying that the foods that's frozen at the store is not good for you?
Absolutely not. I mean, like frozen whole meals, they're going to be full of salts, sugars. Don't forget anything that can stay in the freezer or anything like that or on the shelf for 6 months without refrigeration or in the freezer for 2 years. It's got to be something in that, right? Shelf stabilizers, things like that. There's going to be things you can't pronounce in there. So I know it's convenient, but it's absolutely no good. Those are proven to have super high salt content and super high sugar contents, which is, it's not just weight, it's your heart health, it's your cholesterol, all of that influence you, especially as you get older. You think you can eat whatever you want, and, when you're young and in your 20s and everything, but you get in your 30s and 40s and 50s, all of that's building up and making a difference. And all of a sudden you have, you could have AFib, you can have high cholesterol, you can be in danger of a heart attack, a stroke, because your arteries are hardening up because you're having so much salt all the time. And that's from the convenience of those dishes. They might taste good, but they're not. I don't think they taste good, but that's fine.
All right. Can you tell us about you cooking for the people from celebrities to athletes?
Yeah, I've cooked for lots of athletes, Celtics players, Red Sox players. I work with them hand in hand, developing their diet and working with the team to make sure they're eating healthy and make sure that they have because, their body, that's their moneymaker. That's how they actually need to perform at the highest level at all times. So they need to be eating the proper foods in the proper proportions to actually make that run at its highest level. And that's when they bring me in.
How about that? Do you got a favorite movie? Because I've seen on your page that you have a favorite movie.
Oh yeah, I had lots of favorite movies. I was a filmmaker when I was younger. I was an independent filmmaker in my 20s. So yeah, I mean everything from Jaws to Pick a Hitchcock. I mean, but yeah, if I had to go, it would be Jaws, Aliens, Ferris Bueller, Godfather. There's just so many, but Jaws would be number one for me.
How about that? Yeah. So I assume you've been to a lot of countries. Have you ever been to one that that you went there and ate their food and said, hey, you know what, and this food's pretty good?
I mean, lots of different. Ireland was a surprise. That had a nice food scene to it when we were there in Belfast. That had that food scene I didn't expect to be so good, but it was very regional and it was delicious. They were doing lots of really great stuff there and like traditional food, but really upscaled. So Ireland was definitely a big surprise. Mexico, I'm never let down when I'm in Mexico.
Now, do you prefer food? Well, of course, you probably prefer food that is spicy.
No. I like food that has flavor. Yeah, I'm not a huge spice guy. I like a pickled jalapeno in my taco or something like that, but I'm not like, flamethrower kind of guy by any means.
There you go. All right. I'm also seen on your profile that you wanted people to ask a question, how you met your wife.
That was on my profile?
Yeah, that was on your profile.
I don't know. That's funny. I don't remember writing that, but I like that. Yeah, my wife came on as a producer on a independent film I was directing.
Yeah. How about that?
Which was pretty fun. And we still love going to the movies together.
Now, do you got a favorite type of music that you like?
Yeah, I like everything. I mean, I'm a Beatles guy. But I love, 60s, 70s rock. But, I grew up in the 80s, so there was a lot of Aerosmith. And, I'm a Led Zeppelin guy one day. But, I'll bust a move on a dance floor as well to a little Bobby Brown.
There you go. So if you're doing all this cooking, I assume that you do a lot of shopping.
Yeah, I shop every day.
Every day.
Every day at Whole Foods. Yep, they know me. I'm like Norm from Cheers at Whole Foods. I know everybody.
There you go. Now, for people that's listening, and where can they find you on social media?
At Chef Joe Gatto for Instagram. That leads you everywhere. It can lead you to my TV show, my books, my radio show. Everything's linked from there. I have a new podcast coming out called Baking Bad, which we actually just did the first episode, and that will be out in a month. So you can find it there. Yeah, so everything at Chef Joe Gatto. That is my bread and butter for Instagram. You can see me cooking with my kids. You can see just everything from there.
All right. And how did you get involved with making the TV show?
The TV show came about because my wife was a producer and she thought I should do a TV show. So I sat down, and being an independent filmmaker, I knew a lot of people in LA, and I wrote a show and we shot a pilot. And then we met a set of angel investors who were looking to open a restaurant, but they were talking to me about that, but I didn't want to do that. But I had my pilot just shot, and we showed them the pilot, and they absolutely loved it. So they gave us money for an entire season, which I had produced before. So I wrote and produced a whole season, and then we got distribution in LA from Principal Media, which is a boutique distributor. And once we got a distributor, then network saw it, and then Pluto picked us up and put us on. And we were number one in the food space for quite a while there. The pandemic was a blessing for us when it came out, because so many people were stuck at home watching TV.
So how did COVID kind of did COVID kind of slow you down with what you was doing?
No, COVID didn't really affect me because I didn't have a restaurant, and being a private chef, people didn't want to shop anyway, and they wanted food brought to them, and that's kind of what I do. So the only thing I didn't do was like my big events, but I was busy enough just doing all my clients for that time, and I was doing virtual classes. It was different, but the private chefing didn't waver at all. And that's one of my big things that I do.
Absolutely. Now, for people that's listening or watching or whatever, should they stay away from foods that are fatty?
I mean, it depends what the fat is, because like a fatty piece of salmon, those kinds of fats are good for you. But empty fats, if you're eating at McDonald's or something, yeah, you want to stay away from those trans fats that are really not good for you, like fats that you're just ingesting like that. But there's good fatties, like fish is a perfect example of that. Salmon's a great fatty for you. It gives you heart health. So that's a great thing to eat.
So speaking of McDonald's, was I assumed to you that fast food is kind of bad for our body, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you're 100% right on that. It is, that's a killer. I know a lot of people eat it. Our family doesn't. It's just one of those things, that we just don't do. My kids don't eat, they wouldn't even like the taste of it, I don't think. So yeah, we try to stay away from fast food. I'm a big believer in cooking at home and cooking with your family and making it from scratch. I really believe that's good for not only the food, but for your soul.
Absolutely. So, so the fast food is bad, and I guess just going out to eat somewhere is also bad.
No, I mean, it depends on where you're going to eat, right? Like if you're going to, a nice restaurant or something that's doing authentic food, that's not going to be bad. Like there's nothing wrong with going out to eat. It's that fast food stuff that they're making that, that's a whole different ball game. Fast food and a nice restaurant are not the same. That's apples and oranges, in my opinion.
There you go. Yeah. Let's see what else we can ask here. Now let me get my question sheet back here.
Sure.
Would you like comedy? Right.
I love comedy.
There you go. Yeah. Do you got a favorite comedian or movie?
I love Brian Callen. He's one of my favorites. Back in the day, I loved George Carlin. Stephen Wright was a big one when I was growing up. Eddie Murphy was another big one that we used to watch all the time. Richard Pryor was a huge one that I used to love. I don't know too many of the modern comics that are out now, but yeah, Brian Callen still plays right now. He was in The Hangover. He's a great comedian. I love watching him.
Oh yeah, let's see here. And where can people get your book? Because you wrote a book, right?
Yeah, it's on Barnes & Noble or Amazon. Either one. It's Joe Gatto's From Scratch. It's actually seriously from scratch, but you can look up Joe Gatto's From Scratch. It's a fun book. We do everything from scratch. There's even a recipe on how to make your own charcoal.
Let's see. Now I'm trying to think of some more questions because I already asked the ones I already wanted to ask. Let's see. Heck, I think I'm out of questions. I asked out the ones that I wanted.
All right.
What's that?
That's great. That means that that means it worked, right? We got through the questions. And it was fun.
Yeah. But anyways, Joe, which I usually ask my guests at the end of every episode, have they got any closing thoughts or statements that they want to say to the listeners?
Well, first, thanks so much for having me on. I really appreciate it. This is super fun. I love all the Elvis in the background.
Yeah.
And, for me, it's, check out my Instagram at Chef Joe Gatto, but mostly, cook with your family, cook at home and cook from scratch. It's a really important thing. It's great to connect, and you're making great food and taking care of your family with each meal you make from scratch.
Oh, absolutely. So once again, Joe, I want to thank you for coming on, talking about food, talking about celebrities, talking about, about everything, and that we could cover. So I'm sorry the episode didn't go longer as I expected it because I kind of ran out of questions. But so once again, I want to thank you for coming on.
I really appreciate you having me on. It was super fun. Thank you so much.
Oh, yeah, of course. It's my pleasure. So that's it for this episode of Conversations with Jacob. Tune in next week, which would be the first episode of October. Not sure what that will be yet, but tune in. So until then, God bless. And I'll catch you guys in the next one. All right. So I'll catch you guys later.